the community that you surround yourself with can have the greatest impact on you in a lot of different areas in life. And you have to be able to reach out to that community when you need.
Man of Mastery, episode 65, Unrelenting Humans, with guest Lani Woods. You know, on this show, we talk about the physical a lot of times. We talk about a renewed commitment to physical health, to personal fulfillment, to deepening connections with friends and family, and serving our communities. We talk about mindset, a consistent mindset of gratitude and empathy. And throughout, it's about continued growth, commitment to continued growth. But although we seem to live in a physical realm, as we talk about so many times on this show, the physical realm domain, physical training really is a tool, and it's a gateway to so much more, to other development opportunities, other growth opportunities, much like we see today in the episode with Lani. And her recovery from a pretty severe physical injury led to so much more. It became an emotional recovery, not only in the injury and addressing the injury, but that dug up all these past injuries, dealing with bipolar disorder, with depression, with past physically abusive relationships. And then that started to unpack her current relationships with her children, and springboarding off of the strength and courage that she found through her children. You know, Lani's story and that one physical injury has created so much momentum. It inspired her to create the Unrelenting Humans podcast, where she features some amazing stories that certainly inspire the rest of us. It's led her down a path of starting to create a nonprofit organization to address some of the challenges that she saw growing up. And Lani, in her own right, has become a hugely inspiring and recognized Spartan obstacle course racing athlete. She's been interviewed on the Spartan Up podcast. She's part of Spartan Women Strong. And of course, she's recognized as the host and creator of Unrelenting Humans. So it just sort of goes to show, you know, you follow your inspiration where you find it. You follow that heart, follow that inspiration, and you never really know who it's going to touch or where it's going to lead or what sort of community it could create. And speaking of community, you guys, I want to say thank you. Thank you to this community for tuning in, for listening. I know your time's valuable and you could choose to spend it anywhere. So thank you for listening. I hope it continues to be valuable for you, insightful for you. And if it is, then find ways to share it. You know, share it with a friend, get them to tune in. Leave a rating and review on iTunes. I'll share one of those with you right now that I read recently, and it struck me. It's super, super humbling. So this was left by Live, Serve, Thrive, Aaron Quinn. He was a guest on the show not too long ago. And wow, Aaron says, Man of Mastery is one of those podcasts that might just become huge. The next Tim Ferriss, he asks. Man of Mastery has all the components, Aaron says, to dominate the space of podcasting. Easy to listen to, educational, enthusiastic, but most of all, insightful. The deep thought and reflection of the host are a breath of fresh air. And he signs it from Live, Serve, Thrive. So thank you so much to Aaron. I mean, that's a huge, huge compliment and standard to live up to. But if any fraction of that is the way it's able to inspire or touch or impact other people, then, you know, we'll keep doing what we're doing here, because that's what it's really all about, is how to find and learn from amazing people and information and bring that to you in a way that benefits you guys. So today's guest, Lani Woods, by no means any exception to that. She is incredible. She's fun to talk to. She in herself is so humble about her own journey and the mission she is on with Unrelenting Humans and where that is leading. So really looking forward to bringing this conversation to you. Lani Woods of Unrelenting Humans. All right. Hey, Lani Woods, how are you? Good to see you today.
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm great. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for having me.
So for everybody, this is Lani Woods. She is the creator and curator of the Unrelenting Humans podcast. She's also been a guest recently on the Spartan Up podcast. a podcast festival. You were featured recently in the Spartan Women Strong site and community. So I know we're going to get into this, but I know you're a single mom of two.
Mm-hmm.
You are a survivor of domestic violence, of depression, of PTSD that's come along with that,
Mm-hmm.
bipolar disorder. And so you are no stranger to challenges,
No,
which is
not at
sort
all.
of the theme, I think, in what you have going on with Unrelenting Humans. But you have certainly taken some dark moments and turned them into a purpose and inspiration and passion. So I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Oh, awesome. Well, yes, definitely. I did. I have been through a lot. And yeah, I have become a pro at taking taking those lemons and making lemonade. So,
Awesome. Well, let's start with Spartan since we have that in common, and I think that packages up a big turning point in your journey.
definitely. Oh my God, I love Spartan so much. So, well, how I am known in Spartan, I guess most people talk to me about my injury that I sustained at a Spartan race. I first got into Spartan actually at a fitness expo where I had went just to kind of trying to get over like my anxiety a little bit of people. So I wanted to go to a crowded space, and then I ran into the expo series, and I didn't try it that day, but I saw it and it sparked my interest. And then at the next expo that I went to, I did try it, which was in Anaheim, and I did well. And so I decided to sign up for a race, which took me to Anaheim and started this whole new uh, I don't even know. It's like almost like an addiction because once I
Yeah.
did it, I just wanted more. And so I signed up for another race, but this time I signed up the whole family to go to Lebec. And Lebec was a beast in itself, and I only did the sprint. So, but I wasn't ready for the terrain, and I was running, and I decided because a lot of people had cameras on me, and I was doing the rings obstacle, which is my favorite obstacle ever because I love doing it at the beach in Santa Monica and anywhere I go. Like I love the monkey bars and swinging. I decided to do a flip at the end, and it was higher than like the ones at the beach, and then the ground was harder. And so I ruptured my ACL and got something called the tibial plateau avulsion fracture, which is where when the tendon pulls away from the bone, it takes part of the bone with it. So,
That
yeah.
sounds brutal. And you're a former EMT, right? So did you have some sense already at how badly you had injured yourself?
Honestly, I was not sure because the thing was, I felt it pop. I knew I couldn't walk, but it didn't hurt.
Huh.
So I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew it didn't hurt, and that was actually alarming because what I did learn later is that if the tendon was still connected, it would have hurt like hell.
Huh.
But because it fully ruptured and was separated, I couldn't feel anything because it wasn't connected.
That's fascinating. So
Yeah.
for people who may not be familiar, to put this in a little bit of context, I think the Fitness Expo is just a series of obstacles and it's set up in a convention center, something like that, and you can run it for
Yes.
time. And
Yeah.
then you went and did, when you say Anaheim, that probably would have been in the stadium, inside the
Yeah, the
stadium, in the
Anaheim
parking
Stadium.
lot. So you get the taste of a race. It was probably like 5 kilometers or so, but still no mud or dirt
Right.
or mountains or a lot of stairs. And then when you say Lebec, this starts to be like hilly. It's a cattle ranch. And so you're running on dirt trails that are all rutted out from like cattle walking the trails with their hooves. And so that
Yes.
whole thing is a challenge in itself, not to turn an ankle.
It was. It is because I'm kind of a city girl, so the Anaheim Stadium was kind of right up my alley because it was stairs and there wasn't any dirt or other type of terrain issues. It was pretty simple. I said it was easy. I shouldn't have said that, but I said that, and so I thought this is gonna be just as easy, but it wasn't.
Okay, so did you say easy when you went on the Spartan Up podcast? Because I feel like if you said that and Joe DeSena heard it, he's just going to make it harder for the rest of us.
I know, right? No, I didn't. I don't think I said that on that. I might have, maybe not, but it wasn't easy in that sense. Like it wasn't easy. It's hard as hell. But I had seen the races on the internet of you know, the trail races, and I had seen the pros and the elites doing their thing on YouTube. So I thought it was going to be harder. So I prepared myself. And compared to, if I had to compare Anaheim and Lebec, Anaheim is way easier than Lebec. So if you're starting out and you're just going to try a Spartan race, go ahead, try the city race or the stadion series. It's a good way to get your feet wet. But trail racing is really different than that.
It is. It's a different animal. And I suppose in a stadium, you could always just walk out, right? Turn
Yeah.
left instead of right and say, I'm done. A little harder to do if you're 2 miles up into the mountains. You just got to either call for medical help or you got to find your way out of there. So
Yeah.
when you got injured, I mean, you're just going back to read your stated mission with Unrelenting Humans, which says it's a podcast created for athletes to share their stories of resilience and to motivate and inspire others. So
Uh-huh.
that's certainly part of your story. How did you, from a resilience perspective, how did you pick yourself up after that? Did you need help to get out of there? Did you actually finish the race because there was no pain, or what did
I
that look
I
like?
I did not get to. I attempted to, but my leg kept going from up under me. Like it felt like it just wasn't stable. And so I tried to hold on to people and I couldn't. So I got a DTF. They took me out on a golf cart thing. It was only like less than a half mile from the finish line. I regret it to this day. Because I'm like I should have crawled. And so I did not finish, but on the actual thing, it says that I finished. It says that it took me like 3.5 hours to finish, but I did. So,
There are some weird results in the system. I had one race where it was my first beast at Big Bear,
uh-huh.
as I was so happy to finish, and I think that finished my first trifecta. Um, and then I realized my timing chip was gone. It broke off the wristband on a wall or some obstacle, and so they had to look at when I on the clock when I went across the finish and figure it out.
Oh
And then you do
wow.
stuff like, we're all still in the middle of COVID and there's virtual races, right? And uh, I'm still endeavoring to get better every time I go out there and race, but I'm really just competing against myself, even though I have podium dreams. But I
Right.
did I did just notice that I took first place in a virtual race because I
Really?
was the only person in my age group that did the virtual ultra one day. So
Wow.
number one out of one. My first
Well,
my first place.
congratulations. A win
Yeah.
is a win.
A win is a win. And
I can't believe nobody else signed up. What?
you know what? It was a trifecta virtual weekend.
Oh,
And so I think a lot of people did the sprint super beast. So I
yeah.
did a sprint super ultra for my virtual trifecta.
Wow. When you could have that's great. You're great.
I don't know about all that, but it's just kind of, trying to do things that are a little bit uncommon.
Yes, and I like that. Yeah, I don't even know if I can go there with you, but yeah, because yeah, I see your son, and yeah, you guys are really um, admirable. I'll say that.
Yeah, he's rocking it. He's rocking it. We're super proud of him. And I know you're a mom too. So tell me, let's extend that a little bit, right? So what does Spartan look like, not only as a woman, but as a mother? And what does it look like having a boy and a girl who have both raced, right?
Yes. Well, as a mother and always trying to be active, I always try to keep my kids active, whether it's like being in traditional sports or outside of it. And we do a lot of hiking. So Spartan was really right up our alley. And my daughter, she runs track, and my son, he loves it. Like he doesn't do well with traditional sports, but he likes Spartan because it's like he does it by himself. He doesn't have to rely on teammates, and it's just basically playing. You're running and jumping over obstacles and climbing on stuff. it's awesome to them. And then you get a cool medal and shirt at the end, so it's dope. So it's a
Yeah,
win-win.
they Spartan really does a great job with the Spartan Kids stuff to build, young athletes and keep that pipeline full of the next generation, but just create a positive atmosphere and kids having fun. For us as adults, it's almost a different experience. I think it becomes like a metaphor for life, overcoming fears and physical challenges and emotional challenges. The kids just go out and play. It's like, wow, I get to
Right.
climb
It's
over something or swing
normal.
from something.
It's us. It has to take us actually back to being a kid. We have to think that it's okay to do these things and get rid of fear. But we overcome so much, and a lot of adults, they're afraid just to try these things because of the mud, or they don't feel they're strong enough to do these obstacles. And it's really great to watch people conquer those fears. No, I love
It
the whole
is.
Spartan community.
It's really cool. You see people helping each other out, meaning over obstacles. You People just do what they can do in the open recreational categories, and I don't care who it is, the best age group winner or Spartan Elite Pro racer.
Hmm.
Everybody fails some obstacles sometimes. Failure is
Yeah.
a part of the sport.
Right, exactly. Gives you something to work on.
Exactly. So, how did Spartan look for you in terms of how did that help, or how did that feel for you in overcoming a physical injury, and then also dealing with some of your emotional injuries and things from the past?
um, well, overall, the community has helped. And what I didn't realize before the injury that actually happened, the physical injury, is that I was using exercise as like a distraction, and I wasn't dealing with emotional and mental stuff from my previous relationship, which was the abusive relationship. So I like kind of held a lot of stuff in and never dealt with the actual trauma. And so having to breaking my leg and being stuck on a couch, not being able to move or go nowhere, really made me have to deal with the demons in my head and focus on actually addressing some things that I hadn't addressed. And I actually can connect that to what kind of happened out on the course, I would say, is because it was like ego. And if I don't know, I guess I needed something to knock me down a little bit because I wasn't controlling my anger. What happened right before I had hurt myself, I had got angry, and that obviously can, alter your perception a little bit. So I don't know, it's crazy. I don't really know how to explain it. But it made me deal with those things and admit those things, and overall made me a better person. And I was able to ask for help from people and advice. And that's how I started Unrelenting Humans, to be honest, is because I was asking people for advice on the internet. Like, it started off in West Coast Spartans in the group on Facebook. I was asking if anybody had ever had an injury like this, and I was just trying to see what I could do. And it was like some adaptive athletes that helped me through that like gave me workouts that I could do with the one leg, or told me to work on my upper body. And I would hear these stories from these athletes, and I was just like, dang, like, have you ever told anybody else this story? Like, that's crazy. And so I wanted to share their stories and other injured athletes' stories that don't get to be shared. Because when you look online, you look at a lot of pros and you hear their stories, and you're not quite at that level. And I feel like having more people at a more relatable level is actually more inspiring than just looking at someone that you've never met, or like couldn't even imagine being in their predicament.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're talking about. So before we get too far down that, I guess the way that what you said struck me when you talk about being stuck on the couch and not having the physical outlet to distract you and having to focus on some of the inside stuff.
Hmm.
Not all of us are on the couch with an injury all the time, but we do have things that we allow to distract ourselves. We can throw ourselves at sport or work or whatever it might be that might feel busy, might feel productive, and maybe really is, but it
Yeah,
could also be used as a crutch to avoid dealing with some things we need to deal with.
definitely.
Did you end up, you said something really powerful there about asking for help. Sometimes that's something very hard for people to want or learn to do.
Yeah, that actually is for a lot of people, and what I'm learning. And that needs to be normalized a little. Because the community that you surround yourself with can have the greatest impact on you in a lot of different areas in life. And you have to be able to reach out to that community when you need. And if you don't, you're like secluding yourself. So that's just going to make your mental state even worse. So,
Right. So on the other side of that, having started to work on yourself on the inside as well as physically as an athlete on the outside, has it changed how you show up or perform or think or look as an athlete?
um, it does. It changes. It has changed, like, I would say, um, I don't even know how to put this. Like, it just changes the way I look at it. Like, before I was just like focused on getting fit, working out, doing the workout, how my body looked and stuff like that. Now I think more about my what I'm doing. It's more intentional. Like, I have to set goals, and I have to make sure what I'm doing is working towards those goals instead of just doing it to do it. Like, people used to challenge me all the time to do stuff, and it was for no reason, and I would just do it because it was like, oh, they challenged me. It was really juvenile, but it's like, so if it's not really towards my goals, I will, stop and halt it, see if I really need to be doing that.
Okay. That's great insight. Thank you. And the some of those demons that you've dealt with in terms of toxic relationships and relationships that became physically abusive, and you finally said enough and had
Yeah.
the courage to get out of that and make a change and try to help make it right. Can you point to what gave you the inspiration to finally have that courage? Did you find it within? Is it part of being a mother at that point and looking at your children? And
I
how does
would
that look?
I would say it's definitely being a mother. So I was in two physically abusive relationships. Um, the first was with my son's father, and I did not get the courage to leave until I was pregnant with my son. And I was in that relationship for about 3 years, and it was really severely abusive. And so I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at 19. And another common thing with bipolar disorder is it's easier or more common for people with bipolar disorder to get PTSD. But I didn't ever really deal with that then. And then this relationship happened, and I never dealt with that. And then I was in another relationship kind of after that we were together for 7 years, but the first four were fine. And then the last 3 years were abusive. They were just really toxic. And I stayed because I remembered the 4 years that were good. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse until the point that, yeah, I found myself, screaming to my kids to run away from our home to get away from my abuser. Like, and then I finally realized, like, yeah, this has to be done. So I had to leave to ultimately protect them and get a restraining order and relocate. And so, yeah, ultimately it was my kids. I don't know what I would be or where I would be if it wasn't for them. And yeah, just knowing that I don't want them to go through that. So I couldn't keep setting this example of me being weak and being overpowered and being this battered woman that was afraid to go outside. Like, it just, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I find how much strength and inspiration we can take from our children. Maybe the traditional way to think about it is a one-way street the other way, whereas parents, we're supposed to impart life wisdom, but the reality is kids learn by seeing, not by what we tell them. So they're
Yeah,
always watching our behaviors and how we show up. So I think a lot
definitely.
about how working on ourselves makes us better spouses, sons, daughters, but especially parents. And
Yeah,
then it really is very mutual. With your kids and my son, that there's so much inspiration and knowledge and wisdom that comes back the other way in what we take from them as strengths or what we see in them that inspires us.
it's crazy. And then it's like we raise them to be these people, and sometimes it's really just amazing. Like, wow, like I made you. Like, you're an awesome human being. Like, wow. Like sometimes I'm in disbelief.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt about it. It's humbling. So
yeah.
with Unrelenting Humans, I know you used the term adaptive athletes, and I think a lot of the stories you've had a chance to share with your podcast community are physically adaptive athletes, but not all constraints or debilitating injuries or challenges are that visible or may not
Yeah.
even be physical at all, like in your case. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you've somewhat become known for your physical injury, but that's maybe just a tip of the iceberg of the whole realm of things that you're dealing with as an athlete out there.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Which it is for a lot of people.
it is, exactly. So you never really know what's going on at home for somebody or inside, no matter how they may look. So what can we maybe just take a couple stories from the inspiring athletes that you're getting a chance to meet through Unrelenting Humans and maybe share a couple of those stories and lessons to take away?
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's a few. Okay, they're not all adaptive. So actually, one of my more recent stories that actually released today was it's a story. His name is William Solomon, and he doesn't have a disability, but he has an incredible transformation weight loss journey. And it wasn't just weight loss, that's what you can see physically, but his whole transformation was, internal. He had to change his mindset, he had to change his habits and his value system of himself because he was battling with depression and wouldn't get the help and the therapy, and so he would overeat, and he was easily over 300 pounds before he decided to change his life. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because there's no, I mean, a lot of people deal with depression, and people use different vices and stuff for coping with that. And what I learned from him myself is that, yeah, you do have to do the work. You can't half-ass it. So it wasn't like he just became this person overnight. It took him 10 years, and he had to go to the therapy, and he had to become more intentional with his choices and choose not to do this and choose to do that and focus on working out and make it his focus. He had to take the same energy that he put into hurting himself by overeating and not exercising and eating bad, and he had to put that same energy into uh, being healthy and focusing on that part, which I think a lot of people could do and it would benefit. And as for adaptive athletes, oh my God. So, one in particular, it's an episode called No Leg Power, and his name is CJ Bellamy, and he is a young man that is in a wheelchair. He is paralyzed from the chest down after being um, shot at 17, I believe, but he didn't let that, stop him. Like I grew up in the hood, so I see a lot of people that go through that and then they just give up on life. They roll around in their wheelchair. They don't really have any desire to do anything. But he has this desire to start a nonprofit. He's a CrossFit athlete, and he's doing a lot for his community, and that is amazing because a lot of people just, I don't know, they just don't, they give up, and that's I don't know. I don't know what exactly the difference is, like what the switch is. And I wish I could, because everybody needs a little bit more of that resilience and that willpower.
And it'd be amazing to try to bottle that up and share it. And I don't, some people say it either comes by inspiration or desperation, and usually desperation.
Yeah,
So sometimes you got to kind of hit that bottom. And I think it's amazing that we have the technology and the medium today to try to share some of these things, maybe to provide some inspiration,
yeah,
whether it's social media, your podcast, blog posts, things like that. But it also makes it a little more difficult in a way, like the gentleman William. Maybe you end up seeing on Instagram the picture of before and after, and someone says, wow, that's amazing, I wish I could do that. But it doesn't always come across or sink in that it took William 10 years. You got to put in the reps and work the process rather than getting fixated on the results.
yeah. That in a lot of areas. Not just when it comes to physical activity and body changes, but
And you mentioned therapy as well. I mean, that I think carries a little bit, at least in this country, some of the stigma of same kind of thing of asking for help. Is it viewed as a weakness? Or even if it is, who cares? But the reality is, to me, a therapist is another form of coach, and athletes are very familiar with having coaches. It's another type of
right.
coach.
I think that's a good thing that people are actually starting to look at it that way. And we're even having, they have sports psychologists, and athletes are more open to it. As for the community, it's still a stigma in some communities. But I mean, we go with what we see on the media. Because when I was younger, I didn't want to see a therapist. And it literally took the last relationship I was in to push me to finally go to therapy. And then I started doing group therapy, and I tried a different type of like art therapy and stuff like that, just to find different outlets to be more healthy overall. And a lot of people don't see it, but you got to want it. You have to recognize that there's a problem. And a lot of people won't, that's the first step. They won't admit that there's a problem, like whether it's with eating or drinking or just not being motivated. You have to admit that there's a problem.
Yeah, very true. And like in William's case, eating is very much food's a chemical, so eating is very much can be an addiction as
Yeah,
opposed to should just be a fuel, right?
it should be. So can exercise. That's a
This
form
is
of anorexia.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I've run across some stories recently of some similar challenges, and yeah, I think anything to an extreme can be potentially detrimental. Kind of go past being beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
So where are you going next as an athlete? Where are you going next in your recovery with as a mom with your kids and with Unrelenting Humans?
Um, well, as an athlete, yeah, I'm just trying to recover. My recovery is a little bit longer than I'd expect because my injury was so complex and COVID and all of that stuff. So I will be, oh, and yeah, races are, canceled. So I do plan on returning next season if it opens up. And even if it doesn't, I'm still, going to be running and preparing myself for whenever it does. And um, with Unrelenting Humans, I plan on, trying to grow the podcast more. I don't have a website as of yet, but I'm working on that now. I am working on putting, because it's audio only, so I'm working on adding visual for everyone. I actually want to uh, find a studio to rent to do some interviews. I plan on having different content on YouTube than I do on the podcast sites and stuff. I don't want to just have the same repetitive information on every platform. So we're figuring that out. And also, I am going to be changing it into kind of a nonprofit organization. And I do want to have some fundraisers to help some of these adaptive athletes get the resources they need to participate in sports.
That all sounds amazing.
Thank
So
you.
I look forward to keeping up with it and doing whatever we can do to help and spread the word.
Awesome.
So maybe a few hints, tips, tricks, anything you might want to share with people who are going through some of the same stuff this year in waiting out COVID and looking for another season of whatever Spartan or whatever they might do. Uh, so how do you stay motivated right now?
Right now, actually, honestly, it is social media has been a big factor in that, because being connected in a time where we can't be physically connected, it has been a major factor. So being in these groups on the Facebook, we have different challenges, and that keeps me motivated. So I've been doing this Psycho Fit Burpee challenge for the past 2 weeks, because you have to do 1,000 burpees within 30 days, and then you get a chance to win like $1,000. And so that's kind of got me motivated there. And then also, my motivation comes from getting better. Like, I just want to get better. Like, not just my injury. I want to get better overall, and that motivates me to get my butt up and do the work. To do my PT, and I still work out. I work out with my friends, and I still, try a little bit to train for the obstacles and stuff. I don't want to lose my grip strength. That's one of the strongest things I got. So it's just no, having faith that everything is going to be back to normal someday, or not, if not normal, at least as close to it as possible. And that's what I try to keep. Like, especially when it comes to Spartan, a lot of people have lost hope, and they are like sad, and the season was canceled and upset. And to me, it's like, hey, we got to do what we got to do for everyone, like to make sure everyone stays safe, and just stay prepared. Like, keep working out, keep still have the date on the calendar. You just make a date. Like, you don't even have to buy the ticket for the race, but make a date in your head, and you find other challenges. Like, me and one of my friends, we said on New Year's we're gonna do a pull-up contest. So
How's that going?
that's something to work on. I mean, I'm good. I'm all right. I don't know about her.
Nice. No, that's great. I love that. Keep a date on the calendar as if you had a race. Train towards
Right.
it.
What are you guys doing over there? Stay motivated.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think we've been doing some virtual races. We keep training on our own.
Hmm.
We've got some Zoom groups we train with
I
through.
see that. I was wondering what Zoom groups you guys are with, because I see on your stories that you guys are like working out in the backyard and you guys are on Zoom, but I'm like, who's on the other end?
Yeah, that one's a little out there. So I can share a little bit of this. I think some people have heard about some of this stuff. And when I said earlier, I can relate a little bit. A lot of the training I've been doing the last few years is with an organization here in San Diego, a lot of whom are ex Navy SEALs. And so the training ends up being multifaceted. A lot of it is physical, but it's an integrated training method where within the physical, you start to layer in work on your breathing, on your mindset while you're training. So making sure you're watching the quality of your thoughts and that you're enabling yourself with positive thoughts as you're doing tough things physically,
Yeah.
having vision, using visualization tools like a lot of athletes do,
Hmm.
having something like a mantra to keep yourself focused and positive, using micro goals. So it's a whole mental and emotional layer to the physical training. And it's the thing I related it back to that you mentioned earlier is when you're around people who have served their country in that elite sort of capacity, there's a
Hmm.
tendency to have a reverence for them, and not to say that respect and honor shouldn't be there, but there's a humility. And what I hear time and again is, we're not anything special. We're just normal people like anybody else who've gone out
Right.
and done hard things. So there's a really interesting relationship to that type of training, to be around folks that have been able to push themselves in that way, but also to step back from it and say, Well, if the message is anybody can do it, if they set themselves out to do it,
Yeah.
it becomes very inclusive to train with. So to your question, my son and I are training on a Zoom call on the weekend mornings for 2 hours with a group from that community.
Oh, wow.
So they tend to be extremely tough workouts, and everybody on there struggles in some way, but
Yeah.
everybody does what they can, from
Yeah.
somebody who might be working out for the first time in 30 years to some of these guys are just machines that are leading some of the workouts. So that's kept us super motivated.
That's
Uh,
dope.
and I personally, in my mind, I lost a little bit of Spartan race date focus, knowing that stuff was falling off the calendar. But I sort of reset that recently, and September was to be the Tahoe Ultra, and then there's some other ultras into October and November this year. So in my
Uh-huh.
mental calendar, I'm pretending like there are still 31-mile Spartans coming up within
Yeah.
the next sort of 1 to 3 months. So I'm training as if that's the case.
Right. No, that's good. That is good. I even thought about getting a group together and still going to Tahoe the weekend that Tahoe was supposed to be.
Or Big Bear, it's super close, right?
Right. Something. It's like just because it's over doesn't mean we can't do it, like, or do something. So, I
Right.
mean, we can't gather all like normal, but we can still have, a good Spartan spirit.
I like that. Spartan spirit. There's still opportunities. You seem to like challenges, and I think there's a mindset that develops in sort of this community of a mindset and a bond. I think that brings people together of wanting to do things that are challenging, and for everybody, their challenge level may be different, but being willing to face things that are challenging and work
Yeah.
on that, right? So I went out and did something. This wasn't of my own doing, so I won't take credit for it. But a friend of mine, I'll say, invited
Uh-huh.
me to do this thing last week. I think it was first time I had done this. So we went for a 3 mile ish run. And when I say run, it's more like a shuffle at my pace. But so this was 3 miles in the soft sand near the
Uh-huh.
beach
Oh.
and with a weight vest on
Eesh.
during our heat wave too. I'll add. So if you really want something that will, you don't necessarily have to pack a lot of miles on, and
Uh-huh.
it was, it can be a little tough if you got stability issues in ankles or knees. But if you're careful and sort of pick a line through the sand's super soft, so it absorbs a lot of the impact.
Yeah.
And doing, 2.5, 3 miles in the soft sand feels like a 9 or 10 mile training run.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I like it. I like the idea. I love the sand right now because I can like kind of run in it on cement. No. But sand and grass is good. So I could probably try that without the weight vest, but that does sound like a good workout. That
That
sounds
was a good one.
challenging
That was a
though.
good one. I'll have to go back and try it again. So if the world could look how you want it to look next year, what are your Spartan goals? Are you trying something new, bigger, longer?
I want to do it. I want to get a Delta. I want to complete the Delta in 1 year. I really do.
All right.
So obviously, I still have to do the trifecta, which I'm confident I can do that easily. And well, not easily, but that's like they always have trifecta weekends. That's something. But as for the hurricane heats, I'm a little skeptical about. I'm not sure. I've never done anything like that before. And yeah, volunteering, I'm already, gonna do that. And the SGX training and stuff. I just want to complete the Delta. That's about it. I mean, there's places I want to go to. Like I want to go to Hawaii. I was supposed to go to Hawaii this year, but it got canceled. I want to go to Tahoe if it's happening. I would love to go to Greece.
Greece is awesome. Yeah, that's another facet of the stuff that's so cool is the Spartan race, Joe DeSena, whoever did this is very good at finding people who are goal oriented, right? And here's a medal or another piece of the medal or a next piece of another achievement. but it's also, if that's the way your mind works, then it creates motivation. It creates sort of a ladder of goals. And then you get to
Definitely.
travel around and do cool things in cool places. And you see that community and you see the same people over and over again as
Right.
you do travel.
Exactly. And different people. Like today I met a girl who's a Spartan pro. Her name is Miriam, and she is one of the only black Spartan pros, and she's not from America, I don't believe. But she lives in Tennessee. Like I would have never met her. Like and it's just crazy, just the different people that we meet. There's so many different people in different places, and Spartan is worldwide.
Right.
So it's really, this is great. It's a crazy community. I love it.
Yeah, it's great for people to understand that it is a global community. So if we get back to racing next year, you told me what your favorite obstacles were, the grip strength hanging stuff like monkey bars and
Uh-huh.
the rings and maybe the twister, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
what's the least favorite? What's hardest for you? What's scary for you?
The things that are scary are the cargo net wall things. What is it called? The A-frame
A-frame?
and the other cargo wall thing. Those are scary to me for some reason. I don't know why, but when I get on them, I kind of like freeze, and I like am the slowest person on those things. Like I see the people, they go and they run and they flip down and all that stuff. That's great. But
You're not doing the flip over the top?
no. I've got to work on that.
Have you seen or been on I think they call it the capital A frame?
Mm-mm.
So the A frame is, I don't know how tall, 20 feet, 25 feet tall, maybe. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. It looks like an A, right?
Yeah.
There's one, I think the only place I've personally seen it was in Tahoe. They call it the capital A, like, big letter A.
Uh-huh.
It's like, it must be like that normal truss plus another one on the top. So it's extra tall. So you have that to look forward to.
Thank you for warning me.
Have you done the ape hanger? Have you ever got a chance to do
Ape
that one?
hanger. I don't think so. Which one is that?
So I think I've only seen that in maybe Tahoe as well. So you end up in a pit of water. You climb
Oh,
up a vertical rope to sort of
use a
like
monkey
monkey
bar thing.
bars, but it's more like a
Yeah.
ladder that's moving around, and then
Uh-huh.
down a rope, I think at the other side, back into the water and out of the pit.
I've seen it. I actually look forward to that one. That one is something that's right up my alley. I'm okay with the mud. I'm okay with the rope climb, and monkey bars are my jam. So that's fine.
Yeah, you might rock that one, especially if you like all that kind of stuff. That might be your new favorite as of when you get to go do that in Tahoe or wherever it shows up again.
But in Tahoe, it's freezing. So
That was
that's
my problem last year. The water was so cold that then I tried to climb the rope and my calves all cramped up.
ouch. Oh,
So mustard packet, burpees, and then back to the trail.
I can't imagine. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, I can't wait to see you back out there. I know you've had a chance to meet my wife and my son in person, but you and I haven't really met in person yet. I look forward to that and getting back to racing. And I'm
Absolutely.
really looking forward to what you described is coming up for Unrelenting Humans,
Thank
especially with the
you.
nonprofit and getting more sort of, you didn't use this word, but sort of sponsored athletes out and accessible to race and keep inspiring the rest of us.
Yes, definitely. That's the goal.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, just recap, please, where people can find the podcast and you and Unrelenting Humans on social media.
All right. Well, you can find us at unrelenting_humans on Instagram, and there's a link to our Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We are now on YouTube, just starting like this week. And for me, I am evolution_of_Lani on Instagram and Lani Woods on Facebook. Um, and yeah, there's more to come. Definitely working on the website, and who knows, maybe even a book.
All right. Lani, Lani, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will get links to all that in the show notes for everybody for their convenience. But you're all over the place. Every time I look you up, you're on another podcast, you're featured in another article. So the book, I think, would be perfect. But you got stuff going on all over the place, and I appreciate what you're doing to inspire us, not only with the stories that you cover, but yourself and the things that you're fighting through, and just a great example for the rest of us.
Thank you, thank you. I love what you're doing as well. You were one of my inspirations, like
That's humbling.
listening to your podcast.
Well,
So
I super appreciate it, and thank you for sharing some of this with us. I know you've got more to your story, and hopefully we'll get you back and hear more about it another time.
definitely, definitely can't wait.
All right, thanks, Lani. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow. All right. Thank you again to Lani Woods for taking the time to share some of her story with us. I'm so grateful not only to her, but just the opportunity that this whole podcast mission and platform, the opportunity that it provides to connect with such amazing and interesting people and stories, and be able to share that back with the audience here. Find inspiration, find an edge, find something uncommon, unbeatable within there, and then not just hit stop on the episode and gosh, that was great, but go out and apply it in life. What do you take away from this one? What can you do with it? What's next? What can you do for yourself? What can you do with your kids? So go check out Unrelenting Humans. Show notes for this episode 65, will be at manofmastery.com/065. So manofmastery.com/065. You can find links to Lani's YouTube channel, to the podcast on all the available platforms, to her social media on Instagram for Lani Woods, as well as Unrelenting Humans, and then also on Facebook. So tune in, check out what they're doing, but also stay tuned for the extended mission of the nonprofit organization that she's creating. Okay, and before we close out, in preview of some of the things to come here on the Man of Mastery show and organization, we've got some very exciting upcoming guests. We've got talking about resilience. We've got a guest who has created a whole organization and an extended mission around resilience, around grit. We have a guest who talks to us about overcoming excuses. We've got a couple guests that focus back on the financial domain of our lives and making sure that we are set up financially to focus on our purpose and our mission. I've got a guest who talks about the magic, the power of language, and how we can really harness our internal dialogue in the most productive and positive ways. And then on the Man of Mastery side of things and actions, and there is continuing to form a group of very high performing guys who are looking to work not only individually to take it to the next level, but looking for a peer group that can push them, hold them accountable, and challenge them to that next plateau in life. On the kids side of things, I've started rolling out a program for young men to teach them emotional control, mental toughness, and resilience in a specific curriculum delivered within a sports program. So the goal is to create a competitive edge in sports through training that literally no other youth athletes have anywhere in the world, but also build skills they can take off the field in how they show up in school, how they behave with their friends and with their family, and most of all, to kickstart becoming lifelong, uncommon people, leaders, and heroes. And then third, looking at an event opportunity. So I'm excited about this. This would be around doing epic things together and bringing those two pieces together, fathers and sons, doing some training in a travel event-based environment, and then putting that training into motion in scary, uncomfortable, exciting, and of course, growth-oriented ways. So all that is coming along here in just the next few weeks, within and complement to those upcoming guests I mentioned. So looking forward to bringing that to you. If you have questions, feedback, interest, by all means, as always, reach out. You know where to find me, social media, or by email, or through the website. Again, closing out with Lani Woods of Unrelenting Humans. Make sure to check her out. Check out the show notes on the website, and check out her podcast and YouTube channel. So thank you again to Lani Woods. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode soon.